Welcome to the Health Design Leadership Podcast with author, speaker, and leadership coach Carol Phillips. We're here to help you sharpen your leadership skills and discover the best ways to build great teams. So sit back and enjoy this episode of the Health Design Leadership Podcast with your host, Coach Carol.
Hello, leaders. I'm Carol Phillips. Let's talk leadership. Business leaders are continuously looking for ways to improve productivity, reduce turnover, and increase profits. How do you do this? By improving company culture. Smart leaders know how to create a winning work environment by prioritizing the wellness of employees while modeling positive leadership skills that build effective teams. Are you in tune with what your employees need to be fully engaged, productive, and happy to be working for you? Our goal is to share our experiences and ideas to take you and your team from good to great. Today's guest is a woman who I see as a natural-born leader. She's one of those people who lights up a room and who people are automatically drawn to. She radiates kindness and positivity, and you only need to be with her for a very short amount of time to realize she genuinely loves to connect people while enjoying life to the max. Let me tell you a little more about her. Leslie Sturgeon is a visionary and the founder of Women Inspiring Women. She's a serial entrepreneur, starting her first business 34 years ago at the age of 22. In 2010, she was named one of New Hampshire Business Review's Outstanding Women in Business, and in 2020, she was hailed as one of New Hampshire's top 200 most influential leaders. Leslie was also named as a Woman in Business champion by the New Hampshire Small Business Administration and received 2 gubernatorial citations from former Governor John Lynch. Her organization, Women Inspiring Women, was a creative spark that grew into the largest women's organization in New Hampshire for personal and professional development, business resources, and networking. As we enjoy our conversation with Leslie today, I encourage you to find 1 or 2 new leadership skills you can use to help your team thrive. Now, let's chat with Leslie. Welcome to the show, Leslie.
Thank you, Carol. I'm honored to be here.
Thanks so much for being with us today. Now, Leslie, I've known you for a bunch of years now, but there's still a lot I don't know about your journey and how you came to launching Women Inspiring Women. Would you kindly share your story with us?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. So I grew up in a really small town in New Hampshire, and I was extremely shy. And my family was full of entrepreneurs. So it was sort of what I knew from early on. But because I was so shy, I kept doing things to get out of my comfort zone. So my leadership journey started when I was in high school by me pushing myself a little bit into class president, yearbook editor, things like that, that just made me just get out of my comfort zone and develop these skills that I knew that I needed. I started my first business when I was 22 years old. I kind of fell into it. It wasn't something I was planning on doing. So I really haven't worked for too many other people except the jobs that I held in high school, which were professional in nature. I was a tour guide at Castle in the Clouds, and I worked at a real estate office and things like that. But this opportunity presented itself, so I just jumped at it, not really knowing the ins and outs of running a business, even though I grew up with that, but it's different to run your own business. I started out doing office support services and co-working space, which at the time in 1989 was not heard of around our area. Now it's, virtual assistants and co-working spaces are sort of the norm, but it kind of required me to push a boulder uphill for many, many years. I had a small staff at that point. Then I added in association management services and became a solopreneur, just as I changed the focus a little bit about it. But I was always restless, like what's next, while still being in love with what I was doing. But it's like, okay, where do we go from here? And how can I push myself a little bit more? What was instrumental for me during those years is because I was so young, I surrounded myself with older women who were sort of blazing the trail. They were in leadership roles, they were running businesses, and they were just mentors to me. And I thought, this is really cool. And if I'm really benefiting from the advice of all these other women, what would it be like if I sort of paid it forward and did this on a sort of regular basis for other people? So that's how the idea of Women Inspiring Women came to be, was basically, I thought, this is really cool. How can I pay it forward? Let's bring women together for personal development and networking. So I pulled it all together and had a launch party with a great speaker. And that's where it all started. And life has never been the same since then.
You're just growing and growing.
Yes. And much to my surprise, I thought it would be once a month, like a dinner event, group of women get together, business and professional women, or any women that wanted to hone their skills or learn something new or be around people that they could ask these burning questions like, how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? And that type of thing. I never expected it to take off like it did, and almost instantaneously. So I grew the group to multiple locations within the state of New Hampshire within about 2 years. I took over another group in southern New Hampshire. I was holding 3 events a month throughout the state. It just took on this beautiful life of its own beyond my wildest dreams. And that's when really life changed for me in a big, big way. That became my sole focus. It combined everything I loved to do, and that I felt I was good at it. And I met extraordinary people, yourself included.
Thank you. Wow, that's amazing. And I talk to so many leaders who will share that they were shy when they were young, including myself. I was painfully shy growing up and painfully insecure and not worldly, but I never thought of it consciously until you were just talking about befriending people of different ages. I've always had people in my life and friends of all different ages, and didn't stop to think about how that helped me because they were kind of like mentors, because people are quick to share their experience.
Absolutely. And you're correct that the more we get out there and we meet people and we talk about people's stories, it is astonishing to me how we're all very similar. So many people say, I used to be shy, and people are like, no, that can't be. You're not shy at all. I'm like, well, this is, 30 years of evolution and me working on myself, because it was something that was holding me back. But it does seem like that is a big thing for people. So I'm glad that you shared that today. I learned something new about you.
Yeah, sometimes we wish we were younger, but I wouldn't want to go back to when I was shy and insecure.
No, all roads lead to today, really. And we look back at that and go, wow, we have come a long way.
Yes, and we end up just developing those leadership skills through life experiences. Leslie, what are some of the specific leadership skills that helped you change your business focus to creating those larger events?
Oh, great question. Knowing that we're all in this together. So I knew that in order for me to be a better leader, I still needed to be around people who had been there and done that. So I continued to seek out those teachers, and I always have like an ultimate list. Like if I could have a 1 hour conversation with anyone and learn something or ask my burning question, who would it be? So I always have a list, and I just make it happen. One of our great leaders here in New Hampshire, Gary Hirschberg of Stonyfield Farms, said, don't ask, don't get. And that resonated with me because he's absolutely right. And you probably know this too, Carol. You don't want to ask someone because they're so busy and you think they're not going to want to take time to talk with me. Everybody wants to be helpful. And in some cases, you'll say, well, you must get asked 5 times a day for someone to pick your brain. And they'll say, no, I really don't. So don't be afraid to ask and have these great, meaningful conversations with people. So I've continued to do that from my early 20s until now. And that's made a huge difference in building my skill. I also keep saying, if this is helpful for me, it probably will be for others. So keep reminding myself as I'm developing my skills and planning programs that if it's helpful for me, it probably will be for others.
That's a great way to think of that.
Yeah, and I kind of use, some people go with the whole traditional research route when they're trying to make business decisions. I've always just gone with my gut and my intuition, and it served me really, really well. Obviously listening to what people are talking about, like if we're all talking about the same thing, then I go, okay, well, I should develop a program around that, or let me learn more about that so I can be supportive, that type of thing. So leadership skills that changed my business focus. It was an opportunity for me to grow as well, like just to continue on in my journey to create events and things like that that I would want to attend, and asking these questions because, we all have different experiences. And by talking to those around you, you realize, like I just learned you were shy.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, we'll probably have a conversation about how you overcame that and what tips and strategies you have for others. I got very clear on what I like doing and what I don't like doing. So that has certainly been instrumental in my leadership journey going, I know exactly the type of people I want to be around. I know what I like to do for tasks, so to speak. Women Inspiring Women combines all the things that I love, which is event planning, marketing, interacting with people, education. So I try not to do things that don't sort of fit into that goal. So I think for anyone developing their leadership skills, but also acknowledging what you don't know. Like you need to, saying public speaking is one of those things. I think you can agree on that. Like, I wish I was a better public speaker. And you think, okay, well, what do I need to do to be a better public speaker? And how can I build up that strength? So I've been over the years very clear on what I don't know and what I need to know.
Yes, always learning, always growing, but
Yes.
always pushing ourselves to do what we want to do and what we're passionate about instead of staying stuck and looking at other people and thinking, "Oh, I wish I could be like that. I'll never be like that." Because then you're not going to come out of your comfort zone. So,
Absolutely.
how does your leadership style contribute to positive experiences? And what are some of your personal favorite leadership skills that you've learned along the way?
I think my authenticity has been really helpful. And years ago, I was struggling with overwhelm, and I felt like I wasn't doing a good job at anything. I was just really being harsh on myself. And I said to one of my friends and members of Women Inspiring Women, I just feel like I'm drowning, and I'm
Wow.
trying not to let people see that. And she said, you have a beautiful opportunity to let people see behind the curtain. And as a
Mm.
woman and as a perfectionist, I thought, oh, I could never do that. They're going to think less of me. They're going to, they're going to be judgmental. I don't want to let people see behind the curtain. And she said, well, I think there's power in doing that because you have this beautiful group of women who are on this journey with you. And we all have overwhelm from time to time. So just own it. Make your mess your message, as Robin Roberts says. So I did. And it was extremely difficult. And I thought, this is either going to be great for me and I'm going to bust wide open, or I am going to regret that I ever did this. And it was one of the best things I ever did for myself and for the women in my group too, because I just started owning what were my challenges and obstacles and asking for feedback. And once you open that door, it just opens these floodgates of other people coming forward. And it really helped me get out of this overwhelm. So it was just this most beautiful thing, is just letting people see behind the curtains, letting them see what I perceived were my shortcomings, the challenges that I was going through. And it reminded me that this sense of community is everything. surrounding yourself with the right people. And it's amazing when you get people together that are on a similar journey, all the goodness that can come from that, the conversations that you have. There's that saying that you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that
Yes.
is absolutely true. So when you're around people that are understanding, but they're also on the same journey of personal growth, it changes everything. So I think authenticity and just owning all of it. But also, I try to bring a sense of playfulness because that's who I am 24/7. I think a lot of people get, it's a professional environment. We need to be sort of buttoned up or whatever. And I'm the opposite of that. I like to play and have fun. I like to laugh. And that has really served me well because, again, if you're passionate about something, it should just ooze out of every pore. And I think people get that sense when they're around me that I'm just doing what I love and I'm feeding off of their energy and that they matter.
Yeah. We get the real you, which is awesome. And those are such great messages for business leaders. The part about being vulnerable. I'm so glad we're talking more and more about mental health and letting people feel comfortable with saying, hey, I'm not doing well today, or I need help, or everything stinks right now. Instead of when people say, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And you're not always doing good. I find that when I'm speaking and I talk about a vulnerability, that's when it just really resonates with people because it's almost like like you were saying, buttoned up. We live in a society where we're kind of taught, yes, we need to have a positive attitude and see the glass as half full, but sometimes that's taken to an extreme and then people suffer in silence.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I think that the more we speak out about it and we demonstrate that, it gives other people permission to do that because things are not always rosy. Especially as we're growing and evolving as leaders and business owners and women, we just need to put it all out there. And I think for you, Carol, and for me, and a lot of the other women that we've met, their life and their work is so commingled. It's who we are. We live and breathe it 24/7. It's what we're passionate about, and we don't need to have a different persona for work. We just don't need to. So I think when people start realizing that things are just that much better. So yeah, authenticity, you and I both lead, I think, from the heart.
Yes. And for decades, it was work and home life was home life, and don't let one bleed into the other. But that's not very realistic. And business leaders who can be vulnerable and can see that their employees are having good days and bad days, and they need to kind of be understanding when they're having a bad day, that's only going to invest in the relationship all the more and get the employees excited about staying there because they know they can be real. They don't have to hide things. And you might have already answered part of this, but what's your secret sauce as it relates to inspiring and motivating others?
Let me think. I think it's providing a very safe place for people. They know that I listen very intently. I want to be a resource for them. I want to introduce them to other women for whatever reason it might be, whether I think they need information from that person, they need inspiration from them, that they've walked that path before, they can be helpful to them. So the secret sauce, I think, is just again, I keep coming back to authenticity. And I listened to one of your other podcasts too, when one of the other leaders said consistency, that the employees and the people that come to their events, like in my case, they know that I am always consistent. They know it's always going to be that I'm always going to be the same. My mood is always the same. My playfulness is always the same. That the way I show up on a Monday is the same person you're going to see on a Friday. And I think consistency really matters to people.
That, yeah, for sure. Consistency. Because that's the way the brain operates, right? It's our brain is looking at who we can trust, who's being authentic. And I know when I go to your events, one thing that's such a joy is just knowing that it's going to be a great event, it's going to be organized, but also you've already set that tone where people are friendly, they're welcoming, they're excited to be there. They know that they can just kind of let their hair down and have a good time, and they don't have to be putting on airs, as they call it. So you definitely succeed 1,000% at setting that tone for your events.
Thank you. I also think it's important, though, to mix things up a little bit. Like, have a sense of wonder. Like, how is this event going to be when I get there? Like, what little tweak is she going to do? Or what little added bonus? Or what surprise might there be? And it's nothing extravagant. So while I'm consistent, I also like to be just keeping it fresh and new all the time. And I think that applies to everything in life, just keeping from things being stagnant. And people really appreciate little details, and they appreciate knowing that they matter, that they've given, in my case, they've given time and money to attend an event. And I take that very, very seriously. Just like if someone's going into work every day, that we have an obligation to honor that. And it's not big things. You can mix it up and have an attention to detail and all of that kind of fun stuff without a lot of extra effort.
Yeah, the little things are the big things.
Yes.
And you're right. That great combination of it being new and exciting, but people know they can have fun.
Yes.
Yeah, fun, especially in the workplace. I like to remind leaders, let your employees have fun. They're going to get their work done, but let them build great relationships with each other and have times where they're just chatting off on the side with each other, sharing a joke or laughing about something, because that's super important when it comes to increasing productivity for the long run and reducing turnover.
Absolutely. And I think too, like, just build excitement. Like, they don't know what every day is going to hold. They know that there's going to be hard work and they still have a job to do. But, the leader sets the whole communication style. My style is more laid back, easy breezy, but yet people know that I'm very serious about what I do, and that I'm bringing my personality to it. I just think that people need to start just doing that more. We don't need to follow any sort of rules. Just find out what our leadership style is and just go with it.
Yes, I totally agree. Leslie, what would you say is a guiding principle that you use?
So I have a life mantra that I've developed years ago, and that is sort of a filter that I use for everything in my life, whether it's work, my personal life, or whatever. And that is, I like to hang out with cool people, laugh my tush off, and do what brings me joy. So that has really served me well, because I think when it comes to work, I want to hang out with cool people that are inspiring and motivating me, they'll hold my hand, but they'll kick my ass at the same time if that's what I need. I like to have good conversations. I like to laugh and have fun and be playful while still being serious, and do whatever brings me joy. That really applies in the category of work, because if it's not bringing me joy and it seems challenging, not challenging as it's hard to do, but if it's not hitting me in the heart, then it's not something I want to be doing, and I'm not going to be good at it. I've gotten really clear about what my skill set is and what I enjoy doing, and I try to only do those things.
Wow.
That's just made a huge difference.
I love that. And, it just made me think of that. Do you think maybe, because I think it's that way for me, is that part of it is because I was so shy and so insecure for so many years that once you learn to develop confidence and have fun and not care what negative people think, etc., that you never want to let that go, and you want to just keep going in that direction. And it takes time, it takes years of experiences, but once you get to that point, you kind of feel like you're living the way you're meant to live.
Absolutely. So many of these things that we've talked about and that you've talked about with some of your other folks is that we just need to get clear on who we are and what we want in our life. And when that's in an alignment, everything else falls into place. We're better leaders, we're better just friends. When we're following what we're really meant to do and we have all that clarity, then everything just falls into place and it makes for a really joyful, fulfilling life. But it is a skill that you need to develop. You have to keep asking yourself, like, what is next for me? Or what would be a nice challenge for me? Yeah, it's a muscle that you need to develop.
Yes, yes. And our society, it's great that our society teaches us to help others and be givers, but that can create such an imbalance because I love giving and I love helping other people. And sometimes I struggle to balance that with taking care of myself, because there's times when I'm taking care of myself, but I feel like I'm not being productive enough. And then the guilt sets in. And over the years, I've had to learn to shut down the unhealthy guilt and say, no, this is what I need to be doing for me right now. Otherwise, I'm not going to have the bandwidth to help other people. So, Leslie, you have an attitude of collaboration versus competition, which I absolutely love, because I think that's just so important, especially in the workplace. Can you speak to that and how you develop that mindset?
It's something I had to develop over time. It where I think we're so programmed that everyone's a competitor around us. And I have realized that I am my biggest competitor. I am always trying to one up myself or to improve something, but in a really positive way, not in a detrimental kind of way. And the analogy was given to me that if you look at life and business and career as a marathon, and you're looking to your left or your right to see who's there or behind you, then it's just slowing you down from getting to where it is that you want to go. So just keep moving forward at your own pace and your own stride, achieving your own goals, and you'll get to where you want to be. But I also think that there's room for everybody. I mean, because everyone brings their own unique talents or personalities. And in my case, there's other women's groups, but they all have sort of a different focus. But the common denominator is that we're all trying to bring resources and opportunities to women. So why would I not want to be a collaborator with them? Because, as the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. So the more that we're doing for people, the better that we all are. And there's room for everybody.
Right. I like to think of it as the more the merrier.
Well, absolutely. And our lives are so busy that in my case, there are a lot of other events for people to go to, which is great because we are busy. And you might only be available on a Monday afternoon, whereas I might be hosting an event on a Thursday night, but somebody else may have one that fits into your schedule. So instead of being jealous of what other people are doing, I'm inspired by it as well. I'm like, this is really cool that we are all have this shared commitment. So I've just learned over the years that there just is no competition. There's room for everybody, and I love to be supportive of other women's groups too. Any more opportunities and more resources I can bring to women, the better. And if other people are doing that as well, it's just everyone benefits from it.
100%. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are just so comfortable and excited at your events, is because they don't have to worry about their insecurities. They don't have to worry about not feeling like they'll have, quote unquote, a seat at the table. It's just people feeling welcome and knowing that they don't have to worry about anything as far as their mental health, anything that might be making them feel uncomfortable, because Leslie has my back and Leslie likes collaborating as opposed to anything being a competition.
Absolutely. And just looking around and knowing that it's a no judgment zone, that the
Mm,
people that you're around are just, they want you to be living the life that you want to live for yourself and want to be helpful in how to get there. And I think whether it's people coming to my events or building a team in your business, when you are attracting the right people, it's a game changer. It's a culture that you create.
absolutely, 100%. And that's what I love, is the whole, what is the culture here? And leaders remembering that the people on their teams, we don't always know what they're going through, if they're having a terrible day and it's something that they don't want to share, or whatever insecurities they might be bringing to the table based on their upbringing or whatever it might be. And just remembering, I just got to be kind to everybody and make everybody feel comfortable. I know when I was growing up, I was blessed with parents who taught me to be honest and be kind. And I watched my parents treating everyone with respect. There wasn't anyone that they treated lesser than. And that just really gave me a great foundation for just having that the more the merrier mentality.
Absolutely. Well, I want to
Leslie,
go back to sort of the competition, or I don't really know what this category would be, but I learned early on that things are not always as they appear. For example, we talked about shyness too. I never ever would have known that you were shy, and people don't know that I was shy. But some people get intimidated when they see other people. But once you get to know them, you realize, wow, they're not faking it till they make it, but they're pushing through these things. So things are not always as they appear. You may look at someone and go, wow, Kara really has her life together, and I feel worse about myself or whatever it is, because why can't I be more like Carol? When you realize Carol's doing the work just like I'm doing the work, and
right.
that it's not always you know what you think it is. You go into a networking event, you see someone that's sort of working the room, and you start feeling like, oh, I wish I could do that. Well, that person may be dying inside from anxiety. So just
Exactly.
know, that's we all put our pants on the same way. It's so true. We're all on our own journey to be the best version of ourselves, and just keep focusing on ourselves. And instead of maybe being jealous by the other person or feeling less than, look at that person and sort of learn from their example, like how they carry themselves, or that they are the most positive person in the room, and just observe people and realize that they may be working through something just like we are.
Yes, 100%. Leslie, I'm sure you've accumulated many inspiring stories of life just being life. But I was thinking about how, in particular, when you're planning these big events, I'm sure there's times that things could go sideways or something happens that you don't expect at all. And I can picture you handling things just so well, pivoting and doing what you need to do to keep moving forward. Do you have a story that you can share with us?
I do. I am an over planner, so I tend to have plan A, B, and C, just because, again, I take people's time and financial commitment very, very seriously. So therefore, I want to deliver a really good event beyond what they're even expecting. But sometimes things come up in life that you just can't have plan A, B, and C. That life just tests you in a way that you've never been tested before. Early on in Women Inspiring Women, I experienced the hardest couple of days of my life. My father was diagnosed with cancer and took an unexpected turn for the worse on Tuesday night, with my large New Hampshire conference for women happening on Friday morning. And it was only the second year that I had done this event, and it was a huge transition year. I moved to a new location, and I had just, tripled the size of it and the number of people and the caliber of the event. And it was just huge. There was a lot riding on it. I definitely did not expect my father's health to decline. And it was the first big loss that I'd ever experienced, too. So I'm navigating letting go of this man that I just absolutely adore, letting go of him and the unpredictability of what that week was going to look like and when it was going to happen. But also my event. I had all these people counting on me and all these sponsors and exhibitors and what was going to happen to the event, and people were flying in. So all week, well, those couple of days anyway, leading up to Friday morning, was just pivoting and saying, okay, well, who's going to be the master of ceremonies? How am I going to handle, who can I bring in as another speaker? Because I was supposed to be one of the speakers. My father was an entrepreneur, and I remember having a conversation with him saying, he was already unconscious, but I had a conversation with him like, Dad, I need a sign from you as to what to do here, because this is my business, but yet you're my dad. My dad died Thursday night at 9 p.m. and the conference started at 9 a.m. Friday morning.
Wow.
So I think he heard me, and there was the sign like, honey, go and do your job. I had the blessing of my mom and my brother, and I went and did my job, which was, I hadn't slept for days. I had just lost my father, but I spent a lot of time questioning what was the right decision. Should I go to my conference, and how is that going to be perceived? Are people going to judge me as being insensitive, that, I left my grieving family 12 hours after my dad died? Or am I going to set the example that we push through, we can do anything, we can handle anything that comes our way? So I really toyed with what the public perception would be. And it was a turning point for me in that I thought, I just feel so drawn to be there because I know my father wouldn't let anything hold him back. He would always show up and do his job, not at the sake of our family, but just that was his commitment. You figure out how to make it all happen, and that this is the way life goes. What I wasn't expecting is the overwhelming love and respect that I got. So everything kind of went out the window. I'm like, this is where I needed to be today. I was surrounded by love and acceptance. Nobody was judging me for leaving a grieving family behind. It was a huge turning point for me in that I just need to go with my gut and do what I feel is best. And I just knew deep in my heart that's what I was meant to do. I think my father gave me a gift of sorts, and it was a beautiful, beautiful day. And I was just surrounded by love and respect.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you went through that. Man, what a great story. And when we listen to our gut, isn't it right almost all the time?
It always is. And, we don't always land on our feet, but we always survive the fall. And I just thought, felt so compelled to go that day. And it just speaks again to the power of community and being around the right people who just hold you up no matter what. And also the lesson of letting go, that life just happens. I had kind of come to peace with the fact that I was not going to leave my father, that I just needed to let go, knowing I was surrounded by people too that would carry the day for me. They were there setting up that night, and I was messaging them, letting them know what's going on. And they were just people that had my back, and they held my heart, and it was beautiful.
Wow, that's terrific. And you set that tone. So that's that two-way, right? You set the tone, and then they give it back to you, and they were there when you needed them.
It also was a good lesson in asking for help. I think we all can agree. We don't ask for help enough, and that people do really want to be helpful. And sometimes we wait to ask for help until we're so far into something. So that was a good reminder too, that someone always has my back. And it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, and that it's realistic. It's a form of strength, even though sometimes we think of it as a weakness. And I'm the same way. I have trouble reaching out and asking for help. And over the years, I've pushed myself to learn to do that more. And I heard a speaker one time share a story about asking for help. And they said, well, you know what, if you never give other, you like helping other people. And if you don't give other people the opportunity to help you, you're denying them what you enjoy doing. So let them have their turn to help you, just like you like helping them.
Absolutely. And I remember someone in my group one time said, it's kind of rude that you don't ask us to help. I thought,
Oh,
oh, wow, I don't want to be rude. They're like, we want to help you.
nice.
And it's, let us help you. And in my mind, I wasn't intending to be rude. I was like, I want people to come to my events and feel taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And by asking them to like roll up their sleeves and do work was not taking care of them. But for them, they felt more connected to me and the group because they were doing setup, they were doing whatever they were doing. And so I went, oh my God, I don't want to be rude and hurt people's feelings. And I thought I was doing a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So again, being that open and raw and asking for help and saying, I can't do this alone, it has just been the trickle down effect from that. And it's made it so much easier. Yeah, I think that's the great thing. We all need to we need to accept what we're not good at either.
Yeah, and we can't grow if we don't delegate,
Yes.
right? We can only do so much. So
I want to hear one of your inspiring stories, Carol. You've had a great leadership career, and I'm curious about if you have any inspiring or funny um, or just stories of growth.
I think the one thing that jumps to mind is years and years ago when I first heard about the power of positive thinking. I thought, oh, that's really fascinating. I love that. So I decided I was going to start paying attention to the thoughts that go on in my own head because, we communicate with ourselves the most in the world. We have that voice that's telling us what to do, what not to do, etc. And at the time I thought, you know what? I'm going to pay attention to the thoughts in my head and see if I'm positive. And at the time I thought, well, I think I'm a pretty positive person, but let's see what happens. Well, I was shocked because I discovered that I was kind, I would try my best to be kind to other people, but I wasn't always being so kind to myself. And I didn't realize the negative messages I was giving myself that wasn't contributing to my happiness, but it was also holding me back. And so I decided that I was going to go on a mission to change that. I came up with this little game that I had to play, and the rule was I was going to keep listening to myself. And when I caught myself giving myself a negative message, I would say, stop, stop. You can't be saying that to yourself. You need to be more kind and positive. And I would have to stop and change it to something positive. And at first it felt really phony, but
Yes.
then I just kept doing it. I knew it was like a muscle I had to exercise. And I just kept practicing and practicing. And that made such a difference in my life, such a difference, because not only is it on my radar now, but it's much easier for me to be positive, which helps me to take better care of myself and my mental health. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I love that story. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. All right, Leslie, let's pivot. It's now time for Coach Carol's quick quiz.
I'm a little frightened by this, Carol.
Be afraid. Be very afraid. You know how
Okay,
scary.
I'm buckled up. I'm ready.
Buckle up. All right. I'm going to throw some questions at you just for fun, and so our listeners can learn more about you. There's 5 questions. Just give me the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm nervous and scared, but I'm ready.
You're going to be amazing, as you always are. All right. Question 1. What's your favorite part of planning a big event?
Oh, well, I love details. Love, love, love details. But the best part about planning an event is knowing that I'm going to see some really cool people and I'm going to get to spend time with them. So they're always on the top of my mind when I'm planning an event, like, oh, I think they're going to love this, or I can't wait for them to hear this speaker. So, or I can't wait to hug so and so. Like, so for me, it's the end, knowing that I get to see my friends and my community of women. But I do love details. I like lists.
You're a list person.
I am.
Me too. Me too. All right, number 2. What's one of your pet peeves in life?
Oh, people saying they're going to do something and they don't. I have I have high standards for myself, so I kind of do for other people when it relates to certain things. And people giving me their word really matters to me, and I take all of that pretty seriously. But in terms of like ridiculous pet peeves, I don't like glitter or googly eyes. And people know that about me, so they'll send me cards with glitter that now I won't open in my house. I have to open it, at the mailbox. And I just think googly eyes are kind of a waste of money, but people like to terrorize me with them and put them all over my house and office.
I have to tell you, knowing, and it's just the people who know that you don't like glitter or googly eyes, that has created so much fun and so many funny situations over the years, right?
And emojis. People know that I don't like emojis. So they'll send me window clings, they'll send me messages, and they'll say, "This was so funny. I had to use 18 emojis, and you'll just have to get over it." Like it makes me so happy that people know this about me, but yet the flip side is it's always haunting me.
it's
Yeah.
and it's
But it
created
really
so much
is so
fun.
amazing. And when people show up at events wearing pink, I mean, these little things that just make you feel so loved and appreciated.
Yes. Yes. Because if they didn't love you so much, they wouldn't be teasing you with them all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
All right. Question 3. You have a day off to relax. What are you doing?
Depends on the time of year, because it can be pretty cold here in the winter. If I have time off unexpectedly, I might contact some friends and say, come over and hang out with me and let's swim in the pool. It always involves other people. Like, let's just hang out and laugh. Let's talk. Or sometimes it's like, wow, I have an unexpected day off. I can do whatever I want. And then you just never know what that's going to be.
Yes.
I don't have to do anything if I don't want to. There's no expectations on me today.
Yeah. And doesn't that feel so good sometimes?
It does.
Like I can breathe. And when I have that happen now, one thing I'll say to myself is, okay, Carol, you need to look at your schedule because you're obviously overscheduled. If this little bit of unexpected time off feels that awesome, then maybe you need to be doing that more often.
Oh, it is a huge lesson and an epiphany of sorts.
Okay, question 4. You have to adopt one non-traditional pet. What do you choose?
Oh, your questions are good. Non-traditional pet. Well, I make fun of my friends that have non-traditional pets like alpacas and turtles and parrots. So I don't want any of those. Non-traditional for me, I guess, would be a cat. I didn't really grow up with cats, and I don't really dig cats, but maybe a fish. It's not non-traditional, but it's not the norm for me. How about you, Carol? I want to know what your answer is for that.
Oh, geesh. That's a good one.
Yeah, see, it's hard.
I think so. I think if it was friendly and it didn't bite me, like maybe a nice big soft tiger.
Yeah, I can picture you and I both loving something big and cuddly and furry.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. It would probably be expensive to feed, but
true.
yeah.
Yeah. See, that's a hard question, Carol.
That's hilarious. All right, question 5. What's some advice you give to women who perhaps aren't feeling very inspired in their lives?
Oh, well, I would always ask, what would bring you joy? Just what would bring you joy and just do that. And
Hmm.
for some people, it's eliminating certain things, but they're not feeling really inspired. I'm just like, what would make you happy? What would bring you joy? And sometimes it's so simple that they just can't get out of their own way. Like no
Right.
one's given them permission to do such and such. I also am a big believer in if you're having a moment where you're just not a pity party necessarily, but sometimes you just have to lean into it and go, you know what, I'm just going to feel the feels today and know that tomorrow is a different day. And
Yes.
yeah, and especially as women, I think you sometimes just need someone to tell you, it's okay. You're just having a moment. You'll get back on track.
Right. Having
Yeah,
the support. And I know with me, one thing that I've learned to do over the years is I'm a morning person. So if it's later in the day and I'm stressing about something or not being happy or whatever it might be, developing those skills of just reminding myself, okay, Carol, go have a good meal, go to bed early tonight, get a good night's sleep, and you know you're going to feel way different tomorrow morning. And I love how
absolutely.
you start with the open question for them.
Well, it's kind of again, I ask what I ask myself. And I think you bring up a good point, Carol, when you just said that, because I think people really need to get in tune to what works for them. And and don't be afraid to ask for that. Like if you know you're a morning person and you want to maybe be at work at 6 a.m. because that really works for you, and the work doesn't generally start till 9, then just ask if you can work 6 to 2 or something like that, because that really works for you and your personality and your style and your lifestyle. Don't be afraid to just ask. Like I don't like to have to be up and be somewhere for like 6 in the morning. That doesn't really work for me.
Hmm.
Um, but also I'm a creative person, so I can't fit into like, okay, well, you have to be somewhere at 9 o'clock and you have to be creative and you have to pull it all together. That's just not my style. My creativity might not start till 2 in the afternoon.
Hmm.
Um, it's just understanding yourself and don't be afraid to ask.
Yes. And people who most people know what they want. They're just stuck with what's keeping them back.
Or it's the norm. So I can't, if having an extra half an hour where you could go to work at 8:30 instead of 8, because it would make your whole life different. You could take your kids
Right.
to school, you could do whatever. Like Gary Hirschberg says, don't ask, don't get. But really understanding what works for you and what would make your life more joyful and less stressful.
Yes. And giving yourself permission to go do what you want to do, not worry about what other people might think or say. That's every year that goes by, I get better at that. And sometimes that's where mentoring can be so helpful is when people are younger and they just haven't grown to that point yet where they feel comfortable following their passion and their happiness.
You're correct. And listening to what other people say, I wrote a blog post about this recently where someone that was very close to me, who was also an entrepreneur, said, why don't you go produce something? Because in their mind, that meant sitting at my desk actually producing something. Whereas my work involves me not sitting at my desk producing something. It means nurturing the environment where my creative juices are going to flow. It could be floating in my pool in the summertime, and all of a sudden the floodgates open with ideas because I'm out of that production zone or whatever it is, that really understanding what I need to do my best work. And it's quiet time and it's away from my desk. And just because someone else has their own opinion about what that looks like doesn't mean that works for me. And again, I do think that comes with age, and I think it comes with building up that muscle of not really caring what someone else's opinion is or what their agenda might be.
Yes. And recognizing naysayers. There was a time when I shared with someone who I thought was a supportive, positive person. And I was talking about something new I wanted to do with my business. And I mentioned it to them. And they had a very negative response. And it was interesting because I had finally grown to the point mentally and emotionally where right away in my head, instead of listening to what they said and thinking, oh, well, maybe I can't do that or shouldn't do that, right away I said to myself, that's a naysayer, and you need to continue with what you're passionate about. And so I ended up moving forward. I learned that naysayers don't always come in the packaging we expect them to.
Exactly. And usually those around us too are well, not in my case, because I surround myself with the right people at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we get opinions from people that really don't know what they're talking about. We're asking business advice of non-business people, for example. So I think not that we want people to tell us what we want to hear, but we want honest feedback.
Right.
And sometimes it's your family and friends can't relate to what it is you do at work. So that's the importance of mentors and putting yourself in an environment with like-minded people that will help you process that.
Yes.
And also realizing too, like, you can take someone's opinion in, doesn't mean you need to change everything that you're doing. So good for you, Carol, knowing like, no, I feel in my gut, this is what it should be happening despite what they're saying. But also sometimes when we're changing and evolving too, it's affecting people. They don't always want us to grow and evolve. So they're coming from their own perspective and how it affects them.
Yes, and having that good balance between accepting honest feedback, but then weighing what we need, what's best for us to move forward. Leslie, thank you so much for being such a good sport with our questions. Before we wrap up today, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think it would just be figure out what you want and go after it. Life is really pretty cool.
Yeah, especially when we make it that way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carol, too, for the gifts that you bring the world.
Oh, thank you so much. What's the best way for listeners to learn more about you and Women Inspiring Women?
Probably the website is the best way. It's womeninspiring.com. And of course, this day and age, we're on all social media. LinkedIn and Facebook and whatnot are my preferred platforms. But womeninspiring.com is probably the best way.
Terrific. Leslie, thank you so much for being with us today and for all the important work you do to inspire women. Listeners, you can learn more about Leslie and Women Inspiring Women at womeninspiring.com. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to all the business leaders who are making their companies the best places to work. Be on the lookout for our next podcast and make today a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Health Design Leadership Podcast with Carol Phillips. Be sure to click on the subscribe button so you won't miss any new episodes. Join our online leadership dream team at askcoachcarol.com. If you're looking for an engaging speaker for your next event or an effective trainer to strengthen your leadership team, contact Coach Carol today. Thanks again for listening, and make it a great day.